You've got FunFactor, two old gamers reviewing old video game magazine reviews. I'm Ty Shelter, he's Aidan Moher, and we're two professional writers who grew up loving the video games and video game magazines of the 1980s, 1990s, and 2000s. Every episode we take a critical look back on the games media that, for better and for worse, inspired us to do what we do. First, go to funfactorpod.com and follow the show on your podcatcher of choice. Leave us a rating or review on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your media. We'll read the best, kindest, funniest, and most insightful ones on the air in our letters section. Please consider becoming a member of FunFactor Ultra, our premium tiers that unlock ad-free episodes, bonus episodes, and the members-only channels of our Discord. Just go to funfactorpod.com, and I promise you cannot miss it. Then, help us spread the word. Shout us out on Blue Sky at funfactorpod.com and everywhere else at FunFactorPod. Aidan, the legendary and imaginary restaurant critic Anton Ego once wrote that we thrive on negative criticism because it is fun to write and to read. Before we go any further, do you agree?
Yes and no. I don't. So, listeners, before being a games journalist, I was actually a book critic for a long time. I don't review a lot of video games, but I reviewed a lot of books. I didn't find pans and really negative criticism a lot of fun to write. I didn't find it very interesting. It's easy to go and just kind of tear into a book. I found it a lot more interesting to try to write something complex and understanding how or why maybe this went astray or how it didn't meet the expectations of, what the author was promising or what I wanted it to be. I went out of my way to find books that I thought I was going to like because I liked sharing my love for books, and maybe that's not very criticky of me, but I have more fun writing stuff that's exposing the interesting experiences I've had. We do all love reading criticism though, don't we? And I think just psychologically there's something in our brains, our human brains, where it's hey, this person's getting ripped and I'm not, so therefore my life could be worse, so that means I feel pretty good about where I am at this very second. Which has had negative connotations when you scale that over the entirety of social media. But reading a real deep piece of critical content can feel pretty good sometimes. I also what I should add to that. I also like criticism after I've also experienced something. I don't really go into buyer's guide style criticism to see if I want to buy something. I like to go back and compare experiences. What was my experience and what was this person's experience? What new perspective do they have on this game or this book or this movie or whatever? So that also kind of colors what I want from the criticism I write and also from the criticism I sort of seek out.
Yeah, no, definitely. We've got same brain on this yet again, which is why, of course, there is a podcast. Go to funfactorpod.com and subscribe. But there's a specific joy, I think, that comes from a vicious teardown. This is something we've tried to engage in very lightly with this show, I think, because as you said, we both love games. We both love journalism. We both love media criticism. And highlighting the negatives and or negativity of this era of game magazines has been done to death already. And I think as we've talked with several of our guests who are a part of games media at this time, it's a lot of times the positivity and the great stuff is glossed over and we go, oh my God, can you believe XYZ, right? And obviously that's not the same thing as critique and examining media in the frame that it exists. But there is that kind of positivity where you've got the glee of really ripping into something, and sometimes it unlocks writers most energetic language and vivid metaphors, especially in these magazines. You can see, when a game is a 6, you get, well, blah, blah, blah is blah, 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 and the gameplay is this and the thing is that, but they start breaking out the good metaphors, they start really getting into that energetic language and getting to let loose a little bit.
Yeah.
It really does seem to kind of unlock some of the higher level writing that you get in these magazines at the time. But of course, that is immediately a breath away from some of the worst kind of toxicity, where looking down on something and feeling intelligent, being seen as intelligent or superior to that thing, are being taken as synonymous, right? And at the time, I kind of thought this was like a 90s thing, right? Then I thought it was maybe like a Gen X thing, right? Where you have the disaffected, cynical misanthropes in the comic book guy mold growing up to be like the old Sheldons and angry video game nerds of the 2010s, right? And now, given what we see in, YouTube content, I think maybe it's just what happens when 20-somethings want to impress teenagers.
I mean, it's just kind of clickbaity, right? Like it is something that just drives, like, people don't, and like I've seen this as somebody who, ran a blog for a long time. If I wrote a negative review or a critical review, it would get 3 times as much traffic. It would get shared around in the way that my positive reviews wouldn't, right? And because there's a lot of the time it's like, I think positivity, it can give you that feeling of using hyperbolic language and big feelings, but the more you do that with a positive opinion, the more people start accusing you of just being a shill or, being too positive. Like, I was often told my reviews were too positive when I was a book critic. And in large part, that was because I was picking and choosing. I wasn't reviewing books if I didn't have anything interesting to say about them.
Right.
But, if you go out of your way to use some of that positive language, people are like, they don't take it seriously. But I think the people also that are sharing and getting excited about hyperbolic negative criticism also aren't really like in it for the criticism necessarily. Like, like it's not, they're not there for like intellectual criticism. It's more just joy in seeing somebody fail. Again, like coming back to the idea, like, when you're watching somebody who's angry on YouTube about this, that, or whatever, as we've seen constantly and endlessly over the last decade, like anger fuels people, right? And it makes us feel justified in the feelings of disappointment we have in our life or in the world or whatever. And it's just so easy to feel into that. And in an algorithmic age, all of that gets buoyed up to the top. So it's not that there's not positive stuff out there. Like, I curate as much as I possibly can. I curate Blue Sky, YouTube, and try to find the positive stuff, like the My Life in Gaming crew, right?
Yeah.
They are honest, and they'll be negative when there are negative opinions that are needed, but they're also super enthusiastic and positive. And, that type of content is out there, but algorithms, or the Player One podcast, from chat. That's right, Greg. That type of positivity is something that we want to bring here to FunFactor. And like you say, we don't want to just like, it would be easy to go in on old games media and be like, like these jokes are so juvenile. They didn't really know how to review games. Instead, it's a lot more interesting to understand how the language of reviewing video games was, being developed and created at this time, and that failures exist on the record in something like games media. And we're seeing that happen in real time. And I just think that, like, it's okay for things to be bad also. And, like,
sure,
understanding why they failed is an important part of understanding how a medium can get better. And so that's where, like, negative criticism, I think, can still be super valuable. Angry criticism, though, is a different story, I think, is where I'm kind of coming to through this rambling, like, stream of consciousness. Stream of thought.
Sure. No, it's all great stuff. And I agree, because there is also, the kind of catharsis of feeling superior that like, oh yeah, like I'm the gamer and my needs are not being met, or, my wants are not being catered to, or whatever. And you just got to find the worst about everything to feel happy. You're not satisfied if you're not yelling about how this and that isn't right or whatever.
I don't think, like, just to add to that, I also don't think we can ignore the fact that a lot of the anger comes from young men who have been taught that that's the way to show superiority, or to, like, become the alpha or the whatever, like whatever the manosphere is sort of selling them. that is what they're picking up on and trying to emulate. And I think that that's a hugely important part of this story through the 90s and old gaming magazines through to now on social media.
Yeah, for sure. And again, with the comic book guy and the angry video game nerd and this sort of archetype of, because I mean, the comic book guy was like, if you went to comic book shops like that, those guys were there. They ran the comic shops. They worked at the comic shops. And, I think when you are a 23 to 27-year-old man who is working for, peanuts per hour at a comic shop, what you've got in life is feeling superior to all these 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds who are digging through pocket chains coming to buy comics. And, you can use your vast encyclopedic knowledge to lord it over them and feel like, a god among little kids, right? But that's still just such a bad model for how to enjoy things.
Yeah. I also do wonder how much there's sort of like what path leads people to kind of come to this place where they feel like you're describing somebody who, like, if somebody grew up, and I guess there's too much generalization there, actually. Let's not go down that route.
Sure. But. Yeah. So I guess now I want to come back to something we're going to see in a little bit. What happens when you have an outlier? We saw it pretty recently with Eurogamer's review of Arc Raiders, right? Where the use of AI in a game that is very specifically and thematically about the downfall of humanity coming from robots replacing them, going, hey, you failed on a premise level here. Like, this game is good, maybe even great to play, but it relies entirely on its social aspect, and all of its mechanics are about trying to make do humans building lives together out of the pieces of a fallen robot empire, and here you are using AI for all this dialogue and stuff, and not just AI generated scripts, but like voice. You've got the TikTok lady giving you quests, and it's like, dude. So like, and people ravaged the reviewer because you're supposed to give the 9 a 9. You're supposed to give the 8 and 8. How dare you give a high polished, high production value shooter that many people are enjoying a bad score just because it fails on an artistic level? And I'm like, what? Like, this opinion should be allowed to exist. We can have that debate, but like, I think sometimes, and kind of a reverse of the Ratatouille thing, where, hey, the critic, who's always difficult and hard to impress, then becomes the biggest ally of the new and the inexperienced when they go, hey, this thing that came out of left field totally impressed me. You all should go experience it. Yeah. And I think it's the other way around, too, when someone who has a positive appreciation of games as art turns around and go, I don't care how good the shooting feels. I don't care how pretty the graphics are. I don't care even how fun the social experience is. This thing is a failure, and I'm giving it an F.
Yeah, and ultimately it comes back to this kind of fallacy, this idea that reviews or criticism is an exercise in objectivity, that you're trying to find the truth, the singular truth of a product. And it's not. That's not what reviews are. It's not what they should be. It's not what they've ever been. They are, and somebody on Blue Sky recently put it this way, but like, reviews are op-eds. They're one person's experiences and thoughts about a game. And that stuck with me as just like a shorthand. Like, that is the core of what a review is and what criticism is it somebody taking their personal experience and applying it against a product and what that made them feel and the thoughts that they had about it. If you're hired to do buyer's guide stuff for like Consumer Reports, that's different, right? Like, there are, there are different goals with that sort of thing. But when you get into serious criticism, which is what we should be applying to video games, to say we do books and film and music and art, criticism isn't, is this worth existing? Criticism is, what is interesting or unique? What can I say about this that I can't say about anything else out there? I think that if more people understood that criticism is not about negativity or positivity, but about explaining personal experience with a product or a piece of art, we'd be in a better place overall.
Absolutely. And hey, before you personally experience the flip through of official US PlayStation Magazine number 2, hang tight. If you're not already a member of FunFactor Ultra, getting ad-free episodes, just sit through the break. We'll pay a couple of bills. We will come back, dig into official US PlayStation Magazine issue number 2 right here on FunFactor. Welcome back to Fun Factor, where two old gamers review old video game magazine reviews. Of course, we want you to review us. Do we get a full 5.0 in Fun Factor? Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, and we will read the best, funniest, kindest, and most entertaining ones on the air. Aidan, before we go into this, I just wanted to ask, is it cool? I took just a screen cap of us talking with just this and just want to post it on social. With like, oh shit,
it's going down.
Shit.
It's going down.
Cool.
Your boys.
It's happening. It's happening. We are happening. We're doing the thing. All right. So what's the deal with the official US PlayStation magazine? This is issue number 2, gigantic, enormous Parappa the Rapper on the cover.
It's Sid Meier-esque.
Yes. Sid Meier-esque. To get the sort of words of wisdom from Parappa that we've gotten from Sid Meier in these many, many feature interviews with gigantic photos of him done by Next Generation at this time. 150 pages of goodness, 17 games reviewed for, well, one system, because it is the official US PlayStation magazine. And Aidan, we've kind of sort of talked about this one before, because in our very first episode, we discussed PSM issue number 1, which was a contemporary and arrival launched just a couple months apart. That was the Imagine Media Future US eventual IGN media conglomerate's PlayStation exclusive magazine, helmed by Chris Slate. This one, as we said at the time, was actually a fully independent PlayStation magazine called PSX that was purchased. Basically, Ziff Davis and Sony, from what I can tell, went halvesies in on purchasing it, and then Ziff Davis doubled the headcount and put editor Wataru Maruyama in charge of it, and they rebranded as the official US PlayStation magazine. And as we read at the time from Maruyama's introductory editor-in-chief letter from the editor, going, "Hey, don't worry, we're still 100% completely unbiased and independent." Okay, I don't know about that, but so we'll get into that a little bit here. You want to flip ahead to the masthead, which is like 2 or 3. It's got the big comic drawing of.
We got a little Vancouver representation here with Mr. McLean, which I just need to point out. Beautiful,
of course,
retro jerseys. So here we are, masthead. Aya Brea, editor-in-chief, guest editor-in-chief.
From the editor, Aya Brea. No, so again, already said, Wataru Maruyama started at Tips and Tricks. So he's actually appeared. This is the 3rd episode that he's been featured in so far in our 18 episodes in. He was the editor there, editor-in-chief in 1996 of Tips and Tricks, moved to Ziff Davis at the end of 1996, handled a lot of on-site Japanese coverage for EGM and other ZD magazines. When Sony and Ziff bought PSX, they put him in charge. He had a 15-month run before being promoted to Ziff Davis's West Coast editor, overseeing 3 magazines. He took over GamePro.com in March of 1999, then GameStar magazine for about a year, and then started kind of like slyly edging around to the other side of the table. For 5 years, he was IGN's executive editor client services, which seems to have involved creating editorial, advertising, and perhaps advertorial content for, quote, high-profile external and internal clients, ranging from Apple to Nintendo to Universal Pictures. Then he went over to Sony Computer Entertainment of America for almost 3 years, ran their content strategy, and that kicked off a long run of making internal and external HR/marketing/B2B content for a bunch of huge companies, including Apple and Levi Strauss. and today he is the principal content strategist slash business analyst for the city and county of San Francisco. So this is kind of one of two main tracks that former high flying folks at these game magazines take, and one of them is yes, I'm the VP for solutioneering at consultancy shop, and the other is I'm still freelancing.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I still, whenever we go through like career progressions like this, I just like, man, there was a time
Yes,
when your job got better and you got paid more, and now the career progression is like freelancer who can't sell a piece, Valnet permalancer who's working for way too little, and then your site gets trashed, and then you become like a PR person. If you're lucky, you know, like it's just wild, just the trajectory of the games journalist career. Not that it was like a lucrative career back in the 90s, but like you see through Maruyama's progression that, like, you know, there was a path forward, whereas now that just feels completely non-existent.
So again, it's funny with a couple of these because editorial director Joe Funk,
excellent name.
I
think he was going to be the protagonist of Final Fantasy VII when it was on the Super Nintendo, right?
Yeah. So Joe Funk, and I started to look him up, and I went, hey, wait a minute, I've looked him up before. This little consultancy webpage I landed on, I've been here before. Where is it? He edited Intelligent Gamer for Ziff Davis also. So that was another episode that we did earlier on, kind of the adult in the room as Intelligent Gamer moved from online to real world with its, I think then sophomore in college editor-in-chief. Joe Funk here is editorial director. Managing editor Dindo Perez. Now, there's a Dindo Perez who is a writer and is the right age and lives in the right part of the country, who is a quite prolific screenwriter and showrunner, which I could believe, but I wasn't able to before we went live to record. I couldn't confirm as we sit here talking that it's the same person.
There's an email address. Let's email them.
Hopefully that at zd.com email is still good. And I also love there's like 3 people with emails on this: editorial director, managing editor, and one of the 2 art directors have their email listed, which it's funny. Again, we get into the edge of, okay, we're moving this all to the internet, but first, only a little bit is it going to put its little tendrils into the print mag here. So I wanted to look at real quick here. This is again his second from the editor letter with Haru Maruyama here. And so they're kind of responding to so can you read from the in other news subhead here? I'm sorry, Aidan, I didn't actually cut this out ahead of time. Can you see well enough to read that?
I can. Okay. In other news, it comes as no surprise that, being the official magazine covering the PlayStation, that accusations of bias started floating around. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. Sorry, I hit my mic. Everyone is entitled to their opinion, and we don't shy away from criticism. Check out this month's letters section to witness the beginning of what is sure to be a lively area of debate and authoritative answers. Before I wrap this up, I'd like to thank the readers who have written in thus far. The staff and I were not quite prepared for the positive early response we have received from people like yourselves. Stick around, because we've only scratched the surface of what is already the authority of all things PlayStation. See you next month.
So again, we're going to get right to the letters section in just a minute here. But again, the idea that they've got to establish their credibility accusations of bias started floating around, and it's like we'll again, we'll get there in a second as to what the level of editorial independence is, because we've had a couple of other magazines either assert that they're independent or left you to assume that they are, and maybe aren't as independent as it looks. Hold on, maybe that they aren't as bought and paid for as you might think. So we can decide for a second, but I really think it's interesting that the letters are coming in here, and again, their first thing is, we've got to establish we are independent, even though we are definitely not, because it says official US PlayStation magazine at the head of the at the head of the masthead.
He also did go on to work for Sony Computer Entertainment America for a number of years as content strategist, which I think maybe this is a different episode, but like, even if there was no downward pressure, people operating in an environment where they feel like it's not self-censorship, but it's like, what is it called? It's like, if you're kind of pulling your punches or you're taking a certain editorial direction because you think it might benefit you in the future, whether you've been asked to or told to or not. And I'm not accusing him of doing that, but it is something that could happen subconsciously, or biases that that could exist within editorial staff without them even realizing it. I don't know that this really happened. I honestly think that you were getting into video games magazines because you probably wanted to write about video games, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting to think about and talk about. I do think ultimately that these people were, outside of Nintendo Power, which was like shamelessly, and, I love it for it, but it was like, a promotional material for Nintendo. And I'm glad that they never really tried to, say they were anything different. And so I can kind of buy it here as well. But it is hard when you have your name of your magazine as official US PlayStation magazine. What makes it official except for Sony's involvement? So it's
Sony's blessing. Exactly. But again, as we said with PSM also, even if it didn't say official at the top, even if Sony's money wasn't involved in paying your checks, it's still a one console magazine whose subscription and advertising budget comes entirely from the health and vigor of the PlayStation as a platform and an entity. And so, like, if you are at this time running the official Atari Jaguar magazine, you cannot be and obviously it wouldn't be this time because the Jaguar has been dead for a year at this point, but you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, if the PlayStation isn't successful, then neither will your magazine be.
Right.
If people aren't buying the games and buying the consoles and playing them, then you don't have a job either, even if Sony isn't officially cutting your check.
And so, like, friend of the show, Greg Seward, says, quote, "For what it's worth, Ziff Davis was very good about protecting his editors from advertiser pressure," which I expect is absolutely true. Greg worked, for Ziff Davis magazines and OneUp.com, EGM. But again, there are other things that sort of influence you. And like you say, if you're working for EGM and the PlayStation doesn't work, you still have the Nintendo 64, you still have the Saturn, sort of the Saturn. But there, there are other options there. There's always going to be content. But, if somebody's running the official Sega Saturn magazine, they were probably looking at the content they were getting going, guys, we got to do something here. We got to get people excited about this. So, do I think there were money hats, going around during this era? Like, not, I don't think so, but I do think absolutely working at US or official US PlayStation magazine made you think about the content differently. And how you wrote about things, whether it's conscious or subconscious.
Hey, all right, Aidan, let's I want to skip ahead. Hold on, wait a minute. Hold on. I got away from my outline here. Hold on. We're just gonna do the flip through. I'm just gonna do a better transition to it. All right. Well, enough talking about the magazine. It's time for the flip through. Oh, yeah. Here, I'll actually have to give you.
Yeah, I just put
'Cause-
random music on my soundboard.
yeah. I'm like, that's not even one of the ones we ended up using.
No.
That's like a draft version of one of the ones. But okay, so Aidan, just go a couple of pages. I think it's page 7. Yeah, here we go. Nope. Yeah, just one. Okay. Nightmare Creatures. Bloody Good Time in Jolly Old London. I've never heard of this game. And
No?
No, I haven't.
Oh. Huh. I never played it, but it's familiar to me. Like, I remember it being around. It's not my type of game at all. You know that.
No, but the Bloodborne vibes are incredible.
Yeah,
This looks like the Bloodborne demake.
Yeah, it's like
that you like covered.
Yeah, I did write about that for Game Informer. That's right. It does look like it's like Bloodborne, but Bushido blade. Like
yeah. I love this. I love this because it's like a Nightmare Creatures, a bloody good time in jolly old London. For more on this tale of terror, call 1-800-85. Like what?
Yeah.
What? If you want to, here's a 2-page advertisement spread for this game. If you want to find out what it is, call this 1-800 number.
Amazing. Or go to one of 2 websites. I like that too. NightmareCreatures.com or Callisto.com. Calista.com.
Yeah, I think that's
I also like how like all the nightmare creatures, all the bad, like the monsters just seem to like, they make monsters and then just take the skin off of them for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't really understand. Okay, so on the left page it says Nightmare Creatures, the logo for the game. Above that there are 4 screenshots, which honestly like look pretty cool to me. Like again, Bloodborne meets Bushido Blade. A bloody good time in jolly old London. On the right side, is that the same ad? It says that is if you still have one.
Oh no. Oh yeah, this is sandwiched with it'll raise the hair on the back of your neck. That is if you still have one.
So it's like a 3-page ad spread for those not watching a video feed. So the first page, which is opposite the masthead we were just talking about, is like a silhouette, a shadow of a monster over some stone wall, and it says it'll raise the hair on the back of your neck. You flip the page, then you get Nightmare Creatures, and then it shows the real monster, and it's scary, and it says that is if you still have one. Yeah, cool. Not my type of game, but I do remember it.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, I am sad that I missed out on it because I do not remember this at all. And it looks like a pretty good time. Let's go forward to just a couple to the table of contents, which has this massive. Now, this is just official Street Fighter EX Plus Alpha, I think it is, art.
Is this era like, just to like butt in, but is this era of Street Fighter art like the best key art? Terrible?
I actually don't. No. I don't like it. Everybody loves it. Everybody loves it. Everyone's like, this is so great, and I don't.
Holy crap! It's the best.
I don't like it.
I
really? Don't.
Wow.
No. Yeah, like I'm like, okay, like Cammy's face looks real weird.
That's okay though. She just looks weird, right? People look weird. Okay.
No. I know, but I just like the Ryu treatment, with like huge eyebrows. Like I don't know, I don't like it. I never have, and I know it's the canonical. Everyone says this is the shit. This is the real stuff right here, and I'm like, I never vibed with this at all. Speaking of art. I wanted to shout out, and actually I should have, I tried really hard to figure out where this came from. That Aya Brea illustration, and some of the stuff, they had a little comic in the first issue. They had a little comic in the first issue of the members of the PlayStation Magazine staff getting beat up by a ninja girl. And I think they were commissioning original art. And I tried to look up Bob Conlon, who was listed, they had 2 art directors. Bob Conlon, who's now actually designer at Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but was straight up a magazine layout, like graphic designer, etc. Straight through. The other person named Jim Cordano appears to have been a freelance writer, artist, and musician, who sadly died at age 52 back in 2018. So I'm trying to confirm, but my guess is it's Jim Cordano who did some of the original art that these issues featured. So, and love to take oh, hold on. Okay. This is great when we're recording this live and have people who know what they're talking about in the comments. Yes. Okay. Jim Cordano, staff artist at EGM and the end of the 1990s and 2000s. Layout guy, wrote the letters section in EGM. Yes, sadly passed away. That's Greg Seward in the comments here live as we, and I don't know if this is actually going to make it into the episode. I was going to refer to it at some point later. Aidan, the fact that we streamed this for members.
Yeah.
Do you want me to kind of promo it here?
Yeah, we could do that, or we'll figure it out in edits. There's always we can do like a comment section later on too, or whatever. And
that makes
I think
sense.
You'll get a good feel for it when you're actually cutting the episode and stuff.
Yeah. And Greg, do not worry, because
that's why we're doing this, Greg.
Exactly why we're doing this. You know, and it's
100%.
something I do. We want to be accurate. When we go back and talk about these things, like, why remember them if we're not going to remember them right? You know, so huge help. And of course, also this stuff is and I think in the next one of the eras we would like to do of that transition from print into web, you know, we get closer to the 1-up era. A lot of that stuff is off the internet, right? You know, it was like neither hoarded and collected physically by maniacs nor preserved for 20 years through 16 mergers and acquisitions and, you know, unpaid server bills and whatever, right? So there's stuff that's just weirdly really hard to look up, even though it's more
almost
online.
like oral histories are important.
Yeah, almost,
right?
Person to person. Yeah. So let's move on. I wanted to go to page 20. And hold on. Quick stop.
We got Blasto.
Oh no, Blasto delayed.
Uh-oh.
Can't get away from Blasto. Right next to Final Fantasy VII's big numbers. Oh yeah.
I love this cool. too. Like on this page, Final Fantasy VII's big numbers. Sony Computer Entertainment America has announced recently that the RPG event of the year sold over 330,000 units in its debut weekend. Big numbers for a Final Fantasy game. And of course, it's like small beans compared to what the game ended up going on to sell. But, you know, at that time, end of the like 16-bit era, like big RPG would sell, like Final Fantasy VI or Chrono Trigger would sell 600,000 units total. And so Final Fantasy VII was pushing over half of that in its first weekend. And that
launch
was just,
weekend.
Like, just a start for it.
Sony's likened the release to a movie opening, grossing $16.5 million, which was more than the highest grossing film of Labor Day weekend, G.I. Jane. Okay, well, that may have been G.I. Jane's fault. But we move on. Let's get to the ad here. This, right here. Do you remember the Samsung GX
Do
TV?
I remember this? Do I want one? Is the answer. I believe my friend Jordan Starkweather, who is a CRT sicko like me, I think Jordan has one, maybe. But in any case, I would love one of these. I wanted one back then. I want one now. Give me it. Just give me it.
Well, this was fantastic because here's the thing, because this was, I think I forgot to say, this is November 1997. That should have been part of the previous section. But so at this point, it was this Christmas? I think it was this Christmas that my mom got me a TV for my room. And it was a 13-inch Samsung. And I already had a boombox. And they all had AV inputs.
Yeah.
So within a month of this issue hitting the stands, I had a 13-inch Samsung TV and speakers about the size of the TV next to it, and my PlayStation hooked up to it, and I still wanted one.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
I was staring at it going like, I functionally have this thing already. This exact thing. It's a Samsung 13-inch color TV. It's the same thing I have, but I still want this. This is so cool.
My whole setup at this time in my bedroom was I had a Commodore 1702 monitor, which I talk about constantly, hooked into a VCR so I could get cable. So I'd run cable through the VCR, but then the VCR had AV outputs. And so I had my parents, I don't know how I convinced them, but I got my parents' receiver and the big ass speakers in my bedroom, and I had my PlayStation and everything hooked up through just their big stereo receiver, with, big, beautiful speakers. And so, I had this, but better. Like my Commodore monitor was probably better than this, honestly.
Yeah.
My speaker setup was better than this, but like this is just too cool, right? Like this is just so sick. And like who doesn't want to just like blast PlayStation sound on a little 13-inch TV?
Yeah, no, it is just screams 21 watts of gaming sound power aimed right at your eardrums, baby. Oh yeah, play it wide open. Incredible. Also, those of us with any familiarity with magnets and CRT screens had maybe a few passing thoughts about, is this good? Is this a good idea? I don't know how this aged or how this worked. If it's oh yeah, those speaker drivers, in closed mode, sitting right next to the thing.
They must be shielded, right?
I
mean, like if they weren't, you'd have so much distortion on the screens.
Yeah.
They must have been shielded. But yeah, are they? How do you shield it when it's closed?
Yeah, that's
all right. So like,
right there.
If they're shielded on the sides, so when you're playing, there's no issues. I suppose you just don't want to turn it on when it's closed, or close it up when it's turned on with sound and stuff. Like, because who knows?
Probably have a kill switch built into the
hinge. The hinge.
All right, let's jump ahead to page 21. There's some thanks so much for this magazine. We love your magazine letters. As mentioned in the letter to the editor. There's also complaint about the Tomb Raider 2 demo video, their first demo disc. They're like, oh, apparently they had a demo for Tomb Raider 2 and then people popped it in. It was very short. On the bright side, the good folks at IDOS are working on a playable demo of Tomb Raider 2 that they promise will more than make up for any video shortcomings. Oh boy. Hate to be at the wrong end of reader hate for including the asset that IDOS sent to you and being like, hey, we got this from IDOS. Like, why didn't you make us
send it back
video?
to IDOS? This was too short. We're not going to include this. Like, as if. Like, Tomb Raider was so big. And like that demo probably sold a ton of magazines. And, I guess that's why people were mad. But like, if you're invested enough in a magazine that you're sending in letters, you're buying it anyway.
Yeah.
Right? Like, come on.
All right. Jump forward another page. Okay, here we go. Official Sony mouthpiece is the head on this one. Okay. Now what I would like you to read is the first paragraph and the first sentence of the second paragraph. Okay. And I read it. Cannot wait to hear your reaction.
Okay, so the letter's called Official Sony Mouthpiece. Dear PlayStation Magazine. Hi. I just picked up Volume 1, Issue 1 of the official US PlayStation Magazine, formerly PSX Magazine, and was amazed at the great coverage of MLB 98 and Game Day 98. I was equally surprised at the lack of Madden 98 review. I was equally surprised at the lack of a 19... I was equally... I'm doing the thing that you said. I'm tilted.
Okay. Yeah, there you go.
I was equally surprised at the lack of a Madden 98 review. I can respect the review given for Game Day 98 only to an extent, as it focused primarily on the, quote, pros of the game as opposed to the whole story. The reviewer simply states that Game Day 98 is better, in his opinion, in two instances with no comparison to give the reader the full scoop on why. Now, I am an EA employee, so I can understand how my opinion could be viewed as biased by the outsider.
What? You are a what?
Yeah. This is like, who was it that was writing in the magazines at the time? A few issues ago, we had somebody who was like an exec at one of the companies that was writing in. But, and like, what did Scott, this was Scott Slaby, is that? It's pretty small on my screen.
Yeah, like,
but like,
by
is he
line,
like
Scott
the
Slavey,
PR lead,
Electronic Arts
marketing
Yeah.
lead for Madden 98?
No, in fact, it says I tested the Madden 98 game later on.
Oh,
And
yes,
if
I've
I
seen
were
that.
asked to review Madden 98 for a magazine, I would give the full scoop regardless. If I were to review Game Day 98, I would give the full story as well. So he's going on and on about this. I just think it is kind of weak as a Sony-owned publication to review a game in such manner, but da 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 da. I question the integrity of. I mean, it goes on and on and on, right? And first of all, imagine, right? You work in QA for like Rockstar, and you write into like Polygon. It's like, your review of GTA 6 is highly, you're just sitting there like, what? I cannot imagine someone who is not authorized to speak to the press generally from EA writing in and being like, as an EA employee, you are biased against us. Your reviews lack integrity. Signed, me, who probably doesn't have a job at EA Sports or EA anymore after this letter gets published.
It's wild because like, how many people in their like Twitter bios or whatever have like, my views do not represent those of my employer, which I've always laughed at because I'm like, no shit, like I don't associate you with your employer unless you come in and say, I work for this company and and then sign off with Electronic Arts in your like letter sign off signature.
Can you give me the PS? Give me the PS. Give me the
Okay.
The PS
So PS, I will understand if you do not print this, though the purpose of the letter is not to make anyone look bad. But if you do choose to print this letter, please do not edit it. Okay.
Sorry, buddy. Okay. Like, you get what you ask for, I suppose. I just found everything about now the response. Of course, it's a very long response, right? And if you want to dig into it, we can. But basically, they just went, "Hey, yeah, look, we just didn't get our Madden 98 review done in time before we went to print. You can also see we compared MLB 98 to Konami's Bottom of the Ninth 97 in the same issue and gave the Konami game a higher score than the Sony game. So, like, obviously we're not just out here to make every Sony game look better, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera."
I do like the last paragraph of their response. It's pretty, like, just a little, like, it's so, quote, unlike Nintendo Power.
Get 'em.
I don't even need to like read the rest of it, but it's just like, it's just so funny to me that they're like dogging on Nintendo Power. Says we are not a Sony owned house organ. We are owned and published by Ziff Davis, who has been the text is so small.
Yeah.
Who has been granted the rights to publish the official magazine covering the Sony PlayStation. And like, yeah, that is a big difference. Being like straight up owned by Nintendo is different.
Yeah.
But I know Nintendo Power at a point was a future publication, wasn't it? Like, it wasn't always.
It wouldn't surprise me if at some point they off-sourced that rather than continue to have, because as we've discussed before, the one at Nintendo Power episode we've done, the masthead of Nintendo Power is like 70% of Nintendo of America US at that point. Okay, sideline. Thank you, Greg. Huge assist. Thank you so much for coming to check out our pilot stream. Have a good stream too, sir. Greg Seward, awesome guy.
Amazing guy.
Yeah,
check out Greg's podcast.
Player One podcast.
Player One podcast. Ready Player One. That's a bad book.
No,
Player One. Do not.
One.
Don't bother checking out Ready Player One. Do check out Player One podcast. If you're looking for an episode to kick things off, I was on Player One podcast.
A
few months ago.
It
was good. It was fun.
Very cool. By the way, Scott Clary. Oh my goodness. Aidan. Hold on. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm scrolling right here. he is not still at Electronic Arts. But he appears to be back at Electronic Arts. Is this right?
It worked.
Wait. No. Okay, sorry. Nope. Never mind. We're gonna cut all this.
Okay.
Very close. Not Scott Slaby. There's a
okay.
Scott Clary who's a technical director at EA
Okay.
in British Kamloops, British Columbia, Canada.
Hey. Of course,
so that's
EA
why
is
I was
based out of Vancouver, which is stone's throw from where I live. But
yeah. So yeah, and then it's 2 years 4 months at EA as of 2023, and I'm like, wait, hold on, I went to level back, so just like going back, I'm like, wait, hold on, this is not adding up. Where's the previous? Where's any? Oh, it's Scott. This is the wrong name, Scott Clary, not Scott Slaby. But Scott Slaby, according to Moby Games, has 15 credits. He was not fired after writing this letter. QA for NHL 98 and Madden NFL 98, testing, I should say, for Madden 98 are his first couple of credits, and basically continued testing and QAing, and then became an assistant producer for Madden 99.
All right.
And Madden 2000, and then a producer of NFL Quarterback Club 2001, NBA Inside Drive, and then finally was special thanks credited on MLB 2K5.
Okay.
So this coming out and swinging for being a company man did not cost him anything, though. Again,
I worked for Scott. Excellent.
Good for Scott. Again, I cannot believe the idea that, like, not being an authorized member of the people who speak for this company, allow me to speak for this company when I say you guys are biased hacks and your reviews have no integrity. Let's jump ahead, though. Page 31. Yeah. Top 20. And this is something.
Hey, Madden. NFL 98. Scott.
And hey, look at this. This is top 20 best-selling U.S. PlayStation titles as reported by the nation's top retailers. And I cannot stress enough how often, just flipping through this magazine and just the stuff we've already read, how often Madden and Game Day have come up, and who's the top 20: NCAA Football 98, Madden NFL 98, Triple Play 98, Game Day 98. Those are the top 4, are all sports games. They're all previewed or reviewed in this issue. Then something called the Jam Pack Volume 1, which is a cheap sampler pack of games. Twisted Metal 2, MLB 98, which again, not Triple Play 98. That was number 3, MLB 98. Triple Play 98 was very special to me, if I'm remembering correctly, because they had streamed broadcasters. And I think, I can't remember if this was the one where they had actual baseball announcers, or they're still using voice actors doing baseball announcer-esque calls. But there was it was like Grandma Hashimoto's chicken fried sushi. The Far East, they had like these fake ad reads. The Far East meets the Old South. This taste of like that is stuck in my brain forever. Like chicken fried sushi.
Good.
Yeah.
Good times.
Good times.
It's amazing. I wanted a PlayStation. Looking at this list of games, like number 14, amazingly, is Ogre Battle, which is shocking to me. Like, Ogre Battle is my jam, but I never would have expected
Wild
to see
right
the
after
PlayStation
it.
version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wild Arms is right after it.
Oh, I don't know how I missed that.
Yeah. But yeah, you see ton of sports, ton of racing, ton of fighting, ton of shooting. Soul Blade still hanging on at number 20 after February 1997 release date, because it rips.
Soul Blade's good, yeah. No Soul Calibur, but it was a good start.
Yeah, I think we also, this is because we have the 10 most wanted from the readers and editors top 10, and there's a lot of overlap here.
Yeah.
We're kind of used to, the editors are giving us their hipster picks, they're giving us the Japanese stuff that isn't over here yet, etc., etc. And like there are a couple of those. Parappa is on here at 7. Colony Wars is on here. FF7, I don't know how FF7 isn't in the reader poll of most wanted games at this point.
Yeah.
Like, what? Huh?
Yeah.
But yeah, so but there overall still a ton of overlap. Game Day 98, Resident Evil 2, Castlevania Symphony of the Night,
a lot of good stuff.
A lot of good stuff.
Was good
Let's
console.
let's go.
It's weird. Can you figure out there's like different colors? Can you figure out what the different colors mean?
Oh,
I know this isn't great audio, but in any case, the top 10, like half of them are like dark beige and light beige, and then there's some blue ones.
Yeah, and the most wanted for the readers is like off-white, light beige, and like a teal.
Yeah.
But it's not in order. There's only 3 teal ones out of 10.
Yeah.
And then the editor's top 10 is still that off-white, but then like a gold instead of a beige, and a dark like royal blue instead of a teal.
Yeah.
And again, 3 I'm scanning. I cannot.
Yeah, I
cannot see what it is. It could be genre. No, it's not genre.
It's not genre because laser tag.
Unless Castlevania Symphony of the Night, Final Fantasy 7, and laser tag are all
Ghost in the Shell, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and Street Fighter EX plus Alpha. Not in the same genre. Ghost in the Shell was a banger game though.
Yeah, there's a quite eye-catching ad of it on the very next or 2 pages away.
There is.
Yeah, hey, there we go.
Ad. Yep.
There's the major.
Whoopsie.
All of her glory. Well,
I don't know what's like more offensive, like her pose or that guy's sunglasses.
Oh yeah,
Ghost in the Shell still rips. It's good, but you know, it was a video game ad at the time.
Yeah, and an adaptation of an anime, which like this wasn't the video game thing. Like this is the source material. This is a faithful adaptation. So yeah,
I watched Ghost in the Shell for the articles personally. That and Ninja Scroll, amazing articles.
And is that in the chat? Is that Andrew Blewett?
That is.
Hey, so yes. Hey, how's it going, Andrew? Yeah, artist for Ghost in the Shell is a hentai artist, IRC. Yeah, I think that's correct. We're still deciding how much of the stream stuff, chat stuff is going to actually make it into the episode, but we're going to at least mention that we are doing this for Ultra Lounge accessible folks. So, and then we have the preview for Madden 98. And this is going to be funny real quick. Yeah, no, you're good. 39. Aidan, couple more. Back one. There we go. So Madden 98. Note here, this is great because this is one of those things where somehow the preview and review end up in the same issue.
Well, this is like the demo. This is everything on the demo disc.
Oh, this is what's on the demo disc.
Okay, I was flipping back thinking maybe the color coding was like, this is on the demo disc or something, but yeah, this is demo disc content.
Okay, well, that was my oversight, and I apologize. Let's go to the previews, the actual previews, not the demo disc, but page 46, I think it is. Here we go. So we talked last issue. I keep saying this. We talked last episode about how as we're kind of moving forward in time here, the PlayStation and Saturn are maturing. We're getting, polished examples of every genre, bold breakthrough games, like inventing whole new genres, right? Totally new play styles, things that were not possible before this technology, right? And now we're starting to see sequels. Just go through these, Aidan. You got Resident Evil 2, Tomb Raider 2, Motor Racer, Skull Monkeys. There's Duke Nukem, Crash Bandicoot 2. One. Okay, Tactics Ogre, right? Sweet. G Police Monster Rancher. I know there's a couple more. Mortal Kombat Mythologies.
That's Street Fighter. EX plus Alpha, that's an ad, but
yeah. Midway Classics 2, Pitfall 3D, Yeah, so like that whole section, yeah, so you've got a bunch of twos and major franchises. It's just this whole wave of sequels, right? They all hit the same dev cycle at the same time. And I, and again, all of these are huge chumps, right? Resident Evil 1 to 2 technically, Crash Bandicoot 1 to 2 technically, Tomb Raider 1 to 2 technically, right? As much debate as there was about, is the PlayStation like tapped out right already? I think it's very evident in these games that it was not.
No, the leap between those
screens.
first gen PlayStation games and second gen, like Final Fantasy 7 to Final Fantasy 8, when I replayed those back to back a few years ago, like it's remarkable how much they learned in such a short period of time. And like you can think what you want about Final Fantasy 8, but like technically it's so much more impressive to play, and you can tell that like it makes Final Fantasy 7 feel like a tech demo where the artists and the developers and the designers were feeling their way through the new technology, the new, console, the new tools that they had available. And then they went, okay, now we understand this. And Final Fantasy VIII is just that major step up. Just like, especially Resident Evil 2 out of these. Like Resident Evil, as much as I love Resident Evil, again, Resident Evil 2 is just such an astronomical leap over the first one. And you see that, I think, in a lot of this development cycle where you're getting these quick turnarounds for sequels. Like, you just don't get that anymore, right? You just, game ships, and whether it's successful or it's not, everybody gets laid off. And then, several years later, you might get a sequel. But it's not about, sort of major leaps. It's just about iteration or keeping costs efficient so that you make more money. Shadows, Assassin's Creed Shadows came out, and it was really interesting. It was the first one I bought in that series in a long time, but they have a formula and they stick with it, and it's not really about these big major leaps the way it used to be.
Yeah, and sadly, but also it's very cool that we still do get matured platforms where we can have, hey, those quick turnarounds, those are happening in indie and small team spaces, right? We're getting new experimentation, new advances all the time, just not from major AAA franchises with the best of the best resources at their fingertips.
Yeah. Octopath, the Octopath Traveler 2 is a good one.
Yeah. Real quick, 68 here, you're on it. The Tokyo Game Show. Wild here because we have is this the mascot of the sausage? I'm not quite sure, but there's a man who's with bare-legged, bare-armed man and wearing a mascot outfit of what appears to be just turkey sausage.
Yeah, he's got to be clear too, he has hockey player legs.
Oh yeah, this dude is rocked up.
It's making me feel things.
And then in the opposite corner, we've got Resident Evil cosplayers and a Croc cosplayer, a young woman who is cosplaying as Croc, the alligator mascot, and she's just wearing a white and green bikini and headband googly eyes that look like Croc's googly eyes.
I mean, to be fair, that's more than what Croc is wearing. Right?
Yeah.
So, it's fairly modest, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny. My youngest was running sound for their high school production of Mean Girls, the musical, and there's a whole song about wearing sexy Halloween clothes, and one was just like, "I give you sexy corn," and this is
sexy Croc. Everybody wants the kids. They yearn for sexy Croc.
All right. No matter how much we love the coverage in these magazines, all the great writing, our favorite writing to read is yours. When we come back from the break, we read your reviews of our reviews of classic video game magazine reviews right here on FunFactor. Did we actually have new reviews this time, or YouTube comments? I should check YouTube comments.
There's a couple of YouTube. Oh, there's a good YouTube comment. It's totally out of context.
Hell yeah. Let's go.
If we read it out of context, it would be really funny, I should say.
Okay.
Oh, I don't want to click on it because I don't want it to autoplay and blast sound everywhere. But
Yeah. See comments for. It's deeply, deeply unpleasant.
yeah, that's the one.
Just quotes. Now, we read Jason's review last week.
Yeah.
So it's just 28 years later, it's still my favorite game of all time. I know every brick of that castle, but it's just such a fun place to explore. That's cool. Which castle?
Castlevania, I think.
Okay, Castlevania. Okay, right. I was like, wait, hold on. What game did we actually do last episode?
You just got really quiet for me.
Did I? Okay.
I don't know if anything changed on your end.
I don't, maybe because I got suddenly a ton of an environment like hum for you like about 10-20 minutes ago. Yeah, I don't know.
10-20 minutes ago, that was probably when the car in the driveway was leaving. That's probably what that was. Is it still going on?
It was, yeah, it just sounded like all of a sudden there's like ambient, like almost like you switched microphones, but not really. It just sounded like all of a sudden there's a lot more ambient noise. But yeah. So we might just skip readers.
Yeah.
Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate. I haven't played. The thing is, I'm mostly gigging as a drummer now, so I'm barely touching my my stringed instruments. My son though plays a ton of guitar, and he's got his own that he plays, but sometimes he'll take one off the wall and dork around with it. And I always shameful because the Gretsch Thunderjet, when I was playing, it was like my baby, my dream instrument, and it's still a phenomenal instrument. I just don't play it, and I feel terrible. I need to give it more love than that. Do you have any questions or anything you want we could throw into this section? No pressure if not. We kind of do the letters section or don't, depending on whether there is actually any content to go over or shout out. No, that's okay. No worries. All right. So let me just redo that throw, and we'll go. All right. It is time to get to the meat of what we do, where we review the review. That's right. It's hold on, let me do that. It's time to get to do. Holy cow! It's time to do the thing we do. When we get back from this ad break, we will review the official U.S. PlayStation Magazine's official review of officially licensed Jurassic Park merchandise, The Lost World, right here on FunFactor. Folks, we are having 5 stars worth of 5 stars out of fun today, and maybe even more because this episode we are actually streaming the recording session to FunFactor Ultra members. We did not tell them we were going to do this. We've been teasing we were going to do a streaming setup. We've been hinting here and there on social media that we were trying to get this together. Well, hey, okay. Greg Seward was on here earlier, Andrew, so you know, it's 2 plural, just one. You jumped on like 30 seconds after he dropped off. But okay, so we are having a blast. We are testing this out. You'll see the teaser on our Blue Sky feed. But just the folks who happen to be online, we just shadow dropped this for those who have the key card, who are swiping in to the premium member only channels of our Discord. If you want that, you want to be a part of that, you want to get these kind of bonuses, these kind of hookups, just go to funfactorpod.com. I promise you cannot miss the sign up widget on our homepage. Now it's time to do that thing we do, review the review. Okay, so Aidan, we've got just a very simple, very next generation esque 1 to 5 rating system here, and we even have a little handy dandy cutout of editor-in-chief Wataru Maruyama. It says, our fearless leader Wataru guards us through the review section. Color schemes below are used in previews and review sections to indicate the game's genre, and we see action, adventure, RPG, fighting, puzzle, strategy, sports, and platforms all have their own colors. Again, we intuited that this might be what they were doing with their top sales charts. Nope. But they are doing it here, I guess. So that's fascinating. Do you want to go, Aidan, just review the 1 through 5 rating system, and their little slugs for what each of those 5 ratings mean?
Okay, so 5 black PlayStation discs means excellent, a must-have game. 4 black PlayStation discs means very good, well worth your time. 3 black PlayStation discs means good, its flaws can be overlooked. 2 black PlayStation discs means below average, but not awful. 1 black PlayStation disc means almost offensive in its badness.
Whew. Okay. And of course, here we're looking at this big old splash review of Castlevania Symphony of the Night, but we are not doing that because we just did that last episode of a different magazine. Let's skip ahead through, good God, Jimmy Johnson VR football. We did not need this. No one asked for this. Their 4-disc rating of Madden NFL 98, that our good friend, representative of EA Arts, Sean, the tester who play tested this very game, complained was not reviewed in the previous, not reviewed in the previous issue. Then we get to sports, Street Fighter EX Plus Alpha, also a 5-disc rating for Parappa the Rapper.
Well deserved.
Next,
there's
to also
a really nice ad.
Yeah. The big kick me bunch of plumber crack. ASCII wear. Imagine the possibilities. Yo, the ASCII grip one-handed controller. Okay, the RPG grip. Because this was originally sold as the RPG grip. I remember, or at least promoted as the RPG grip. And we're like, okay, so you could play this game with one hand, but what you could also do is have 2 linked PlayStations playing Doom, and you can attempt to 1v1 yourself at the same time. Left brain versus right brain, go. But so let's get to page 111 here, The Lost World.
This looks so good, though. You play as a T-Rex.
Yeah. So lots of things going on here. So this is The Lost World, as in Jurassic Park, The Lost World. The movie, or the game of the movie, of the sequel, of one of the greatest movies of all time. This is one of the biggest movies of all time in and of its own right. Very interesting because our kids, our family went and binged all the Jurassic Park movies in order over COVID at one point. And the degree to which The Lost World was simply, okay, do it again, but more, was just like stunning. Like, oh, well, like, what if there were 2 this time? What if we had 2 of them? What if there were more of them? There's very, very funny watching them go through this. And so Joe Rybicki pens this review. And Joe Rybicki, I was hinting at there's 2 career tracks that a lot of these folks tend to fall into. And Joe's is like, all of his social media stuff is, hey, I'm that guy from US Official PlayStation Magazine. Because he eventually would become the editor-in-chief of this magazine after Wataru Maruyama left, and ran it for many years and continues to freelance and write to this day. And this is fascinating. So, do you know anything about this game, Aidan? Do you have any experience with this game?
I mean, I'm a huge Jurassic Park fan. As a kid, huge fan of the movies, the first 2 especially. I played the Super Nintendo game a lot. I played the Game Boy game a lot, and even the Game Gear version of Jurassic Park. But I never played this one. By this point, I was so deep into RPGs that that was all there was. If it wasn't an
Yeah.
RPG, I wasn't playing it at that point.
Interesting. Okay. So this is, I'm gonna guess, close to 400 words, maybe 350. So I don't want to read every single bit of it. But let's go read me the second and third paragraphs.
I'm gonna need glasses after this.
Dude,
okay.
I know.
Okay. And then my voice cracked. And then there are the games which look spectacular from the start. Games we're sure are going to revolutionize the industry. We see the potential beneath the rough edges of their early stages and wait to see it brought to the surface. And wait. And wait. The Lost World drew a lot of skepticism when it became clear that the designers were concentrating so heavily on the creature models and animations, at the cost, many said, of the gameplay itself. I was one of those who said, wait and see, hoping that Dreamworks would put as much effort into the gameplay as they did into the graphics. And now, with the finished product in my hands, I must say, I am not simply disappointed. I am appalled.
Woo! Okay, so this kicks off another little section here. What has been released to the public is a game loaded with severe collision and clipping problems, the kind that seriously affect the player's performance, monotonous, poorly conceptualized levels, mindless, unbalanced gameplay, and beautiful, beautiful graphics. That's right, the dinosaur models are absolutely amazing. So it goes into this, and what's funny here is these screenshots actually do a pretty bad job of conveying what the game is, and also kind of this review does too. What does this look to you just from these screenshots?
I mean, it looks like a Tyrannosaurus Rex simulator.
Right. And to an extent it is, but doesn't it look like an open world game?
It doesn't look level based. Like you don't get any sense that there's like purpose to the action going on in there. Every screenshot has the T-Rex just chomping into a dinosaur with a bunch of blood coming out of it.
Yeah,
which like is so appealing to me though.
Yeah, and apparently that replenishes health. The ability to eat the bodies of your enemies to replenish health seemed rather new, as did the many branches in the game's largely 2D rail. So this is actually
it's like a beat 'em
basically
kind of.
Yeah, it's basically a 2D platformer.
Yeah.
You're like on rails through a 3D graphical, polygonal world, and you're just running and jumping as a dinosaur, which is like kind of really interesting. Also, is there a word in that the part that you read that kind of stuck out? The makers of this one,
Dreamworks. Yeah,
Dreamworks. We were talking about how this is kind of already the tail end of the just begun Sillywood era, right? We've got Dreamworks developing this, and I went and Googled around some contemporary like previews and reviews of the game, and some of the highfalutin, like the goals for this thing were super, super lofty, right? Hold on. 1 second. So, they said the design doc was over 100 pages. Producer Patrick Gilmore said the Lost World could have been just another game where you kill dinosaurs, but instead, we created an ambiance that enables you to feel what the hunter and hunted are going through. Too many games hand you a gun and say, go shoot, without giving you a feel for what's happening on the other side of the barrel. Concept artist Matt Hall created each of the game's creatures using skeletal references. He said, I wanted to make sure everything could be backed up by the latest scientific theories regarding posture and musculature. When selecting color, I had much more freedom, but an effort was made to study that. So, so first of all, too many games hand you a gun and say, go shoot, without giving you a feel for what's happening on the other side of the barrel. This is a 2D platformer where you're a T-Rex who eats everything it sees.
Well,
what? What are you talking about?
Which makes me wonder, like, when was that quote taken compared to the final game? Like, this feels like something that was, like, slapdash pushed over the finish line. Because I think Joe was probably right that they spent so much time on modeling and animating these beautiful dinosaurs, which works great when the primary source of, like, hype is still images in magazines. So you make the dinos look beautiful, and then you get 6 months out and you're like, oh, but we don't have a game. And so you slap it into, like, you know, a weird platformer, right? And so, like, when were those quotes given, and when did the game ship? You know, it's great to have a huge design doc, but if you're putting out, like, an IP driven game like this that has to come out when it has to come out, you know, at a point you just have to make it what it is, not what you wanted it to be.
Yeah. For the record, those quotes came from a April 1997 published, I should mention, issue of GamePro.
Right.
So
you know, April, they were probably taken in February, maybe. And this was a November issue. So, you know, solid 8 months. And, like, maybe they thought the game was going to be more.
Yeah. Or just, you know, they got the models done, they got the environments done, and then it was like, oh god.
Yeah, trying to make. I mean, it's the Final Fantasy 15 method, right? Where, like, you have you've got a beautiful world, you've got a beautiful soundtrack, you've got beautiful graphics, and now you got to make a game out of it, and it kind of loses its way then. Because, I mean, like, at the end of the day, like, a game needs to have, what separates video games from other creative mediums is game playing them, experiencing them, like, agency within the experience.
Yes.
And so you need to nail that first. Figure out what your game wants to be, and then make it look nice or make it look good, you know, and those are different things too.
Yeah. Give me the last paragraph here, and then I'd like to go through the box score.
Sure. So, quote, at its heart, however, The Lost World is an extreme example of what happens when style takes precedence over substance. What a disappointment. That kind of describes all the Jurassic Park sequel movies.
True. Yeah.
So it's
I remember reading a movie review at the time where questions were asked about the development, like why it goes so far off the plot of the book, The Lost World, right? Which is very different.
Which is funny because Crichton didn't even want to write the sequel.
No,
but he had to because the movie was so successful, and they needed something to make a movie of. Right. And then, like,
Well, so the Lost World is literally a novel-length retcon of the original novel. It's one of the most frustrating experiences I've ever had as a reader, where basically everything is just like, remember what I said in the first book? That was wrong. I know that now. Remember said, yeah, well, guess what? We know it wasn't like that. Oh, yeah, remember how, like, that scene in the Velociraptor being born in the little nursery where there's like 6 eggs and all the eggs are born? Well, like, that wouldn't have happened. Like, they would have had to make thousands of eggs to get like 2 good ones. You know, just like everything. Oh, T-Rex's vision was definitely not based on movement, by the way. And it's just kind of like, okay, dude, like, not only does this book suck ass, you are now also retroactively making the first book suck ass. I don't like.
Okay, here,
let me fisking your whole first book. Why?
Because the whole, like, the most interesting thematic part of Jurassic Park is the idea that reality isn't good enough, and that money takes precedent. That we need to, you know, some people believe that we need to make things better to make more money or whatever. And so maybe, you know, from that perspective, it's like, hey, the first book was a smoke show. A smoke show?
That's not.
That's a hot.
Typical usage of that word.
That's what people call me. Smoke.
Right.
Smoke screen. Smoke screen.
Yeah.
You know, that even the experience Grant and Ellie and Malcolm and Gennaro were having was a smokescreen from what was really happening off island. That it was all manufactured, that it was all fake. None of the authenticity was real. In any case, generous reading of The Lost World and the the follow-up films and stuff. But but you know,
So I forget who said it. Maybe it was Spielberg, but someone said, "Hey, yeah, like what did you? Why did the plot diverge so much from the book?" And the answer was, "Well, we just knew to make a sequel, we just had to get the dinosaurs in America."
Of course.
And so like
Yeah.
the whole plot is like, okay, cool, we start with this concept of site B. Oh, there was a second site where there are all these dinosaurs, excuse me. We start from this concept of site B where there's all this whole second site. And oh yeah, let's go. Then we just go, all right, we have to get the dinosaurs to America somehow, no matter how stupid it is. And it is pretty stupid. And then we have a T-Rex rampaging through San Diego. And like literally you can't have a more clear example of style over substance where some Hollywood executive went, this we have to have this. This has to be the movie.
It's
And
like,
so okay, all right.
yeah.
No, it must have been Spielberg
really, like,
because
yeah.
I also remember in the same thing somebody brought up, like took a shot, whoever the critic was took a shot at Spielberg and saying, hey, Spielberg was quoted as saying that he did Jurassic Park before Schindler's List because he knew after he did Schindler's List he might not care about making movies ever again. And I don't think it was specifically, I guess he was right, but like basically said that, right, without exactly directly saying that. Just like, yeah, okay, well maybe now he's made Schindler's List and it's like, okay, here it's time to make the strictly for money sequel, and boy, it looks like it, you know. Damn.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I mean, like, and then when you have source material for a game like The Lost World, you could take it in the direction of like a generic shooter, you know, side-scrolling shooter or first-person shooter or whatever. And like, what do you do? How do you make something interesting out of that when the source material is not great to begin with? You know?
Yeah.
I think, like I said earlier, I think Joe's spot on that they spent a lot of time on the tech and the art for this game and then just didn't have a game underneath it. And the source material wasn't exactly giving you a lot to work with. But like, man, you know what I've always wanted?
Huh.
A survival horror Jurassic Park game. Put me in the role of a kid trying to escape Jurassic Park. Not Dino Crisis, you know, where you're a Marine with guns or whatever, but like,
yeah,
you know, give me that on the Lost
World.
Didn't
they literally announce that at one of the Kiwi
there's
things
something
like 2 years ago?
Yeah, I have this whole
almost exactly that.
I have this whole thing where I want to make a game. This will be for the outtakes, I assume, but a Jurassic Park game where like the first 3 or 4 hours is like you know, like Theme Hospital or whatever, or Sim City, or like I guess Jurassic Evolution or whatever, where you're managing a park, and then like no matter what you do, it all goes wrong. And then as you're sort of like your park is collapsing, the dinosaurs are escaping, then it like you get up out of like, and you realize you've been sitting at a desk in first person view, like managing a real park, and now all of a sudden it's like a first person like survival horror game and you have to escape. And
that rocks.
Wouldn't that be so cool?
That'd be incredible.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, and I think it's also funny that, you know, they're basically like yeah, cool. Dreamworks games basically went, all right, cool, let's make dinosaurs run around this world and eat dinosaurs. There's no mention of like the movie or like Vince Vaughn or like Jeff Goldblum. Like nobody. There's nothing here that is like, oh yeah, cool, we wanted to bring the big screen, we wanted to bring the movie home.
I mean,
it's
maybe
like, no,
they didn't have a license for that too.
Well, I mean, oh no, hold on. Like, I mean, it was definitely the film. I mean, it was a DreamWorks game. And hold on, I'm trying to remember because I saw a thing that there was an Easter egg that where like if you 100% it Jeff Goldblum, there's like a 5-second clip of Jeff Goldblum being like you should go like do other stuff.
Oh
There it is. The secret ending. Actor Jeff Goldblum briefly reprised his role as Ian Malcolm for a secret ending that the player can access if every DNA bonus is collected. The secret ending is a video of Goldblum congratulating the player for finishing the game, but suggesting to go outside and do other activities instead. That rips.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, you want to run down the box score here and the score that they give?
Yeah, so Joe's official box score. So the pros are beautiful graphics and animation, branching 2D path. You can eat your enemies. The cons, breaks every rule of platform gaming.
Oops.
Horrible, imprecise controls. Severe collision and clipping problems. Boring, mindless levels, increased difficulty. And Joe gave it 1 black PlayStation disc out of 5.
Whew. Now, a couple of highlights here. I meant to bring up the Metacritic, but I've got here on the Wikipedia page. Game rankings, average score is 60%. EGM gave it 6.75. Game Informer 5.5. Game Revolution a C. GameSpot 5.6. IGN 5. Next Generation gave it 2 out of 5. Entertainment Weekly, our good old friends at Entertainment Weekly, B-. And then Sega Saturn Magazine gave it a 60%.
There was a Sega Saturn magazine?
Apparently. Oh, UK. Monthly magazine from the United Kingdom covering the Sega Saturn at home view. Yeah, It held the official Saturn magazine license for the UK. We're going to have to do that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so this review, the 1-star review, it comes in lower than Next Generation's 2-star review. At everything else went no lower than a 5 out of 10, which, there's the thought that 5 is effectively the bottom of the scale for a lot of out of 10 scores anyway, right? But it seems like everything else was, we have a C, we have a B-, a lot of 60%. EGM giving it 6.75 out of 10, and Joe giving it 1 out of 5. It feels like this is a bit of an outlier review to me.
Oh, I think what it's saying is that OPM was unbiased, objective, and the rest of them were paid off, right? Notably,
that's notable. So you're picking up what I'm putting down.
I mean, sure. Going after something big, like a big IP, like Lost World, but not something like sexy, like Resident Evil 2 or whatever, is also sort of like, I don't know. I don't have a problem with Joe doing this. And, he's also was EGM Ziff Davis at the time, right? And so he's probably working in the same building as whoever's given it 6.5 average over at EGM. So it would be kind of interesting to understand what went into each of those reviews and what those discussions look like. And that's, what we got with the 1UP show not that many years later, which I think Joe was on, where it was looking at how different experiences, different people come to different conclusions based on those experiences and stuff. But I haven't played The Lost World. I'm always interested in outlier reviews like this. It doesn't sound like he's saying anything hyperbolic either, right? And it makes me wonder if OPM, with the specter of being a biased publication or whatever, maybe editorial told them to use that whole scale in a way that some of the legacy magazines maybe had softened on a little bit.
Yeah, and I again, because it felt like the 1 to 5 stars with those little slug reviews of this is what a 1-star is. Yeah. This is what a 2-star is. It feels directly copied from Next Generation, right? And the fact that they went 1 in Next Generation 2, I think does speak volumes about, they are using the whole scale just like Next Generation does. And I am not trying to position this review as evidence that the official US PlayStation magazine was totally unbiased and free from any kind of commercial influences or pressures, because obviously not. But I do think it matters that that they are willing to. Here we are, second issue, right? And that they're willing to go. Like you said, this is a big IP. It was hyped. It was pushed. It was marketed. It was anticipated by everybody, right? They say, including the game press, right?
It was in one of the top 10s earlier too, I think.
Oh yes,
like
that's
in the
right.
preview
That's
section,
right? That's right. Good catch.
As one of the more more anticipated games. I can't remember if it was readers or the editorial staff, but that you know, that juxtaposition of like, hey, people are looking forward to this, and then, oh wait, it actually wasn't bad. And for Joe to address that in the text of his review, to say, hey, I was really excited about this, I really wanted to give it the benefit of the doubt, and I'm disappointed. It did not figure it out. And I think that within criticism, that's something that separates criticism from just like an angry review. You know, it's something that says, hey, here is the situation. Here's my personal experience. Here's what I was feeling. Here's what I was hoping or thinking was going to happen. Here's what actually happened, or here's what I found. And I think that's a much more interesting than like, hey, the platforming is bad. And the, you know, like, if you do this, that happens, or whatever, or it's too hard, you know, like just those sort of crunchy, sort of like video gamey, like reviews that just focus on trying to describe the experience rather than describing their experience.
All right. Well, Aidan, you want to bring it home? What score are we giving this review?
I really like this review. I've always been a big fan of Joe's work. I think I'm gonna give it a 5.5 Donald Gennaro on a toilet out of 5 half Donald Gennaros on a toilet. Right. I think it's a really, like, in the short space that is given, I think he does a really good job of explaining the anticipation for the game, the stakes for the game, and saying, but here's why they couldn't pull it out, and not giving it grace for its, you know, amazing graphics.
Yeah, and I'm just about there. I'm gonna go 4 half Gennaro on a toilets out of 5, only because I don't think we get quite enough. And again, not a ton of space. We talked about this, not a ton of word count, but I could have used a little bit more of like, tell me what the game actually is. Right. Because I end up having to go looking for like, wait, what is the actual moment to play? Like we say, Cons breaks every rule of platform gaming. We don't mention it's a platformer in the text of the review, right? Or anything. So that was one where I was kind of like, I could have used just a little bit more just nuts and bolts description of what playing the game is like in the context of this. But overall, I think it's a great job. And I think it speaks well of him and the magazine. It doesn't, again, definitively say every review in here is totally free of any kind of outside pressure, or, you know, or as we talked about, implied, the sort of comply in advance, right? Like, oh, I'm writing for the official US PlayStation magazine, I probably can't pan this too hard, right? Like that kind of thing, where even if it's not said, it's implied, and you're taking cues, right? So yeah, I just think it speaks well of everyone involved that he was able to go and give an outlier negative review to a game that a lot of people were looking forward to.
Have we considered maybe that Joe was like on the books with Ron Howard or something, or Scorsese, and they were like paying him to dog on all the Spielberg stuff?
Oh, that would be incredible. It could happen.
It's interesting. We won't get into it, but I think in some ways I disagree with the idea that this needed more about the game itself. When something is so bad or so good that the actual like underlying explanation in a piece of criticism is not as necessary. But I just wrote a review of Quartet, which is a throwback retro RPG for RPG site. Really great game. Gave it an 8 out of 10. I had to give it a review score. And 8 out of 10 felt good, but I did spend a lot of the review sort of talking about what didn't work for me, what my expectations for the game were based on conversations with the people who created it. And then I wrote it, and it was like 2,500 words. It was quite long, and I was like, "Oh wait, I didn't actually describe the game at all." You know, the actual
I would rather have that choice be made, right? I would rather have that choice be made. I would rather have this review be what it is and have not the thing that I'm looking for.
What would you take out?
To have? Oh yeah, right, exactly.
So, you know, to like learn about what the game is like, to me, it's like it's a bad platformer where you're a dinosaur. And in 1997, I knew what that meant, right? Because platformer was just platformer. And like genres were so like simple and like straightforward. There wasn't a lot of genre blending like there is now. Like you kind of have to explain what a game is now. Because genres are so blended, but back then it wasn't really quite the case.
The big, like, I mean, the first whole half of the review is the wind up, right? Yeah. About the preview and anticipation and stuff. I'm like, we could cut a sentence of that or smooth a little bit out of that, maybe to mention that it is effectively a platformer. But you know, again, it's a nitpick overall with you know, a well-written review that is honest, and I think that gets points from me. So before we wrap this up, just real quick, I wanted to say, because everybody knows what a big Parappa guy I am, can you zip to 117?
Sorry, we're gonna have a big half a butt crack on the screen the whole time.
No, sorry, 118, I think. Next one.
Page 118. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's all good.
Yeah, so this wasn't just reviewed. There's a huge feature on it, which is really cool. So we've got like a picture of Parappa superimposed on Masaya Matsuura and Rodney Greenblatt, you know, the two main creators of the game, the cast of characters, right? So there's a lot of cool stuff in here. There's also like kind of a strategy thing, you know. This is just a really cool feature story and lots of cool graphics and good layout work and stuff. I wanted to shout this out. I didn't think it was worth spending a whole ton of our airtime on, because all it does is like, hey, this is Parappa and this is cool and there's this stuff and isn't this interesting, and like we know all this, but quotes from the creators are cool and stuff. So I wanted to, before we go, at least introduce this concept and go, hey, if you're going to go and look up this issue and read it for yourself, don't miss the feature story and the reason for the Sid Meier-sized locked-in face portrait of Parappa on the front of it, because there is cool stuff in here, but we got to do where we can add value, and I think we did that.
Absolutely.
But hey,
and
yeah,
man, Parappa's great, and it's nice. Like, you know, we talk about The Lost World being a bad platformer, but Parappa was something brand new, you know, and to see it get this level of coverage, being such a strange game, was nice, you know, to get not just relegated to like a little preview section like Tactics Ogre did, but to get this big spread, and to get Sony behind a strange, charming game like this. These exist, but they don't come from companies like Sony anymore.
Yeah, and I just think it's cool to go back and look, and that's what we want to tell the stories of these magazines, right? And we want to tell the stories of media coverage at the time. And every time we were talking about this with Matt Leone and our bonus episode interview with him, right? Like, the story that gets told is, oh, everything was a hidden gem, everything was a misunderstood masterpiece, nobody appreciated Parappa in its day, or what, you know, fill-in game in its day. We did, a lot of people did. And even if you know, the best games didn't always dominate coverage 1-to-1, it wasn't a meritocracy, even if a lot of bad games got a ton of preview hype, like Blasto, like The Lost World, right? You know, ultimately there were a lot of smart, talented, hardworking people who cared deeply about games and about their writing and the craft, and a lot of times they did pluck out and highlight some of these weird offshoots, and some of these games were celebrated and beloved by media and fans at the time. And it's not all just oops, everybody was only playing Madden and nobody was playing Parappa, because that's just not true.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we never played the big sports games and stuff. Like, it was Parappa, it was Wild Arms, it was Distrega, you know, it was like the strangest games during this time, whatever we could get our hands on. And that was what made this period of gaming so magical, was these games were being played and people were sharing them and excited about them at the time. yeah, that's not how I think. It's funny because I just don't think about that period of gaming that way at all, the way that you're describing, even though that is a fairly popular, way to look back on that era. But like stuff like Parappa was like, we were anticipating Parappa the Rapper.
Yes.
At the time.
And I was the weird one in my friend group where I was shamed for playing the sports games. Like, Ty's such a weirdo. Why are you playing these sports? Why do you like sports? Boo! Shame the outcast who likes the sports ball and the sports ball games. Oh my! But then I was also the one going, "You guys, we have to play Parappa the Rapper." And
Yeah.
Like, what? I'm like, no, we have to play Parappa the Rapper. Look at this shit.
Triple threat. Right?
Triple threat. Yes,
yeah. You were playing the sports. You were rapping.
Yeah.
Too, right?
I was rapping cool. I actually, and then that was probably outtake too. But my youngest the other day was playing Parappa on PlayStation Plus, PlayStation Now, whatever it was, And I was like, all right, give me the sticks. That's the sticks. Check this out. And I start, I hit you rapping cool, and like the stage blows away, and like every, Chop Master Onion turns into like the kung fu, statue with the setting sun.
I bet your kid thought you were so cool.
What?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Nothing's more millennial than trying to impress people with your Parappa the Rapper skills.
Nope. But hey, listen, you got to take those wins when you're a dad. You just got to be like, look, the kids will be like, oh my god, Dad. But like,
it's
sometimes you rapping cool, and you get to bask in that. All right, well, folks, did we get it right? Make sure. Hold on, let me pull up my thing. Did we get it right? Leave our review. A review at Apple Podcasts, post it as a comment on YouTube, and we will read the best ones on air. And hey, go ahead and pass this show around to all your friends like it's third grade and we're on the playground. Shout us out on Blue Sky, YouTube, and TikTok at FunFactor Pod. Special thanks as always to Millennium Falck for all our amazing original music. Check out his work at millenniumfalck.com. And unlike these old magazines, you won't have to wait a whole month for your next installment. We're dropping new episodes every 2 weeks. So go to funfactorpod.com to follow our show and your podcatcher of choice, and please consider becoming a member of FunFactor Ultra, our premium tiers that unlock ad-free episodes, bonus episodes, and the members-only channels of our Discord where, hey, you might just get a stealth secret link to a live stream recording session of this very show. Just go to funfactorpod.com and I promise you will not miss the sign-up widget on our homepage. If you do, you and we will have a maximum score in Fun Factor.